Welcome to Primordial Flows, where we tend to our primordial flows. So if you'd like to consent to receiving this message more fully and connect energies here, now is the time to do so. And as I tune into the energy here, I invite you to notice your breath or notice one of your 5 senses. Something that you can hear or touch or smell or see or taste that brings you into the present moment of now. And I'm going to tune in. I am tuning in. I'm feeling a sense of like grittiness, kind of like oily but gritty. Which feels kind of like maybe it was my lunch, or maybe it's also kind of like in the space surrounding me. Maybe both. I feel like I'm putting my hands on the floor and just letting out a groan. Maybe you just need to groan. If you're sitting or standing or laying down, notice if you can kind of feel into 4 places of contact with your body on the surface that you're sitting or standing or laying down on. And just notice what it feels like to balance your weight between those 4 points. Notice if there's anything you want to move or shift in your position. I'm feeling this like sharp like almost like needles of light, long like blades, like sharp, moving from above down through my body, just like this like almost, when light is moving and you see like a tiny little bead like become a line. It's like there's these lines like that feel like they're piercing down and through into the earth. Feels like a clearing, like opening up stagnant energy and just like piercing down. Feels kind of tender and intense. Also feels kind of refreshing. And there's a rawness left over. Maybe too raw. Maybe there's liquids it's leaving behind. I'm seeing the image of blood, but I want to be careful of the imagery that we invoke. But that is what I'm seeing. So maybe, and bleeding can be like, it can mean being really vulnerable to infection. It can mean that there's just been like a violation, like the skin opening up. There's been a violation of that boundary of the skin, needing to tend to that, needing to protect that. So let us feel into that tending and that protection. Or maybe it's your moon cycle. Maybe it's releasing like that. If you're a ovary bearer, yeah, I'm feeling like I'm coming up on my moon, so there's this preparation for releasing. And that deep groan is like that, feeling that, anticipating that release, moving and going to the earth, being received by the earth, by the roots. And I'm feeling such a tenderness that when unprotected can maybe lead to overthinking. But if we can just stay present with the sensation of tenderness, sometimes our mind tries to make sense of the discomfort subconsciously. But if we can just come back to this sensation, then we don't have to make meaning. We can create a sanctuary and just be present with love and compassion for this tenderness. And if maybe somebody else maybe you're attuning with the tenderness of someone else, or the tenderness of that relationship or that interaction, and again, we don't have to make meaning or like assign judgment. We can just be with the tenderness, because that is our responsibility. That is what we can do. We don't have to make judgments about it. That tends to add to the suffering for everyone involved. I have the oven heating up to cook some food, to cook some potatoes. I'm feeling like there's this well underneath me, this deep well. I'm remembering a story about how in Ireland they would put an eel in the well to clean the water. And how the eels are dwindling. There's because of water environments, diversity dwindling, and like the biological, ecological diversity dwindling, which is impacting the eels and the water and all of it. So there's this, I'm feeling into an eel like swimming round and round at the bottom of this well. This spiraling of cleansing the waters. And feels like this perpetual cycle. And the eel almost feels like a representation or metaphor for like a lower like our shadow, or part of our shadow, where if our shadow is integrated, it could help clean our waters. But if we're afraid of it, if we're ashamed of it, if we're stuck in those feelings, then our water can get kind of gunky and not good. Like, it can get polluted. And then when our water's polluted, then that's just how it is, and we don't even notice the other or care about the other polluted waters in our environments or in our relationships or in other areas of our lives. And so this feels like a call to connect with the shadows. Again, I'm feeling this like growling, groaning energy. If we want to groan, if you're in a safe space to groan, if you're like in your car or somewhere you feel like you can do it, then just groan with me. That can be a way to access your shadows, to attune with them and to listen to them, to feel into that, and then gain the insight of them and integrate that. And that is a metaphorical clearing of waters. It's that process of attunement and listening and seeing and integrating. connecting with that energy. I'm feeling that that rumbling that's been coming up in a couple of our channels, recent channel journeys. This rumbling when we connect it down into, feels connected to the earth when we tap down into feeling our roots extending into the earth, and this growling, rumbling feeling. Like a pot that's boiling. I'm just squatting here on the ground. If you want to notice if there's any way that your body wants to move or sway, just noticing if there's any impulses of positions or movements your body wants to make. Maybe it's collapsing into deep rest. Maybe it's pushing on the ground. Maybe it's squatting or like a swaying or spiral, to just kind of notice from one moment to the next. Listening to different parts of our being, our bodies and our beings, and noticing how it is. If you want to, I'm noticing my back. Playing with how my back is in relationship with the floor or the space around me. Okay. So yeah, hearing and feeling that water boiling over. Spilling over, sizzling. Maybe something in your life is boiling over. Maybe your emotions. Maybe you've been feeling anger. Maybe the pressure's been cooking. Maybe you feel like you're in a pressure cooker. Without trying to change anything in this moment, just noticing that feeling. Just allowing yourself to be cooked. Not physically, but, or not literally, but if that's symbolic, like the creating a diamond pressure symbolic. Like an alchemical symbolic. That was coming up yesterday too. That heat. The heat of longing, but it could also be the heat of pressure. It's interesting, these similar energies keep coming up, and I'm curious about their dynamics, but attuning to the primordial flows, trusting that that will reveal what is needed. Something about that like piercing light at the beginning, connected with the rumbling. That piercing light feels like awareness, like knowledge, awareness, insight, light being received through the crown chakra, and then coming down into the earth, and then piercing the earth, that's like shaking things up. So this awareness and this consciousness is shaking things up from the down from the foundation. And with that, I hear this, I see this like seed, this sprout pushing its way up from the ground. It feels like a massive seed that's been planted, that's working its way out, and it's sprouting. It's actually sprouting. I'm like, is this the right season? It doesn't even matter. This is just what I'm seeing. This is just what I'm feeling. Feels like maybe a tree. Maybe it's a world tree, like Yggdrasil. No, I'm hearing from spirit, not like Yggdrasil. This is a tree of remembrance, conscious awareness, a tree of knowing, becoming, belonging. And the fruit is space for each being to belong, to be, to have a place, to be loved and cared for, and care for each other. I'm imagining like the little apples on the tree are like on the inside of the apples, they're like homes, like James and the Giant Peach or something, like an apple that's been carved out to make a home, a little home, just enough, dangling from the branches, like little fairy homes, but also a metaphor for everyone having a place. That seed is sprouting. That tree is growing. Can you feel that tree growing in your life? Can we feel a connection with that tree? Can we feel our roots touching out those roots, wrapped around those roots, supporting those roots to grow? Can we also feel connected to our ancestral roots and those supporting us to grow and giving us nourishment? And feeling like we might have had to twist in certain areas and grow in certain ways to get our needs met. We might have been under so much pressure where we haven't grown that tall, but notice what is there. Notice the shape and density of what is there. Notice all the roots, all the other trees, all the other beings that you're connected with. Not comparing shapes or colors or anything, just noticing them. Appreciating the diversity of all of it. I'm feeling like a deep sweetness in the core of my sap. I'm feeling something in relationship with the pressure. With the sap. Not really sure what that is, but it's something like sweat. Sweet sweat. And yeah, I find myself wanting to like connect with a sweetness in life. And I wonder if in doing that, it's like missing the full picture. Like in other flavors, like bitterness or sourness or saltiness or like anything else. Soapy. Anything else we don't want to eat, like shitty, rotten. Maybe it's the alchemical drive that wants to transform and transmutate and alchemize with love. And I keep feeling this thread pulling me back to that feeling of pressure and boiling over which feels connected to this seed that sprouted, the seed for the tree of belonging. It was like that seed of belonging growing inside of us. Even if it's a tiny little place like an apple to start, we find belonging inside that. We find space inside the tiny things, moments of belonging. Maybe when we see a plant and we love that plant, that's a moment of belonging, mutual belonging. And that feeling of shame can be dissolved through that, can be transformed through that, starting with a little plant and then noticing the walls, noticing how everything comes from something in nature, whether it was processed through exploitative, painful means or not, it comes from nature. We are humans, are nature. How can we reconnect with that? And tend to our inner worlds and inner gardens. And grow that awareness until that mutual belonging spreads to everything we see and everything we touch with our awareness. Recognizing the nature, becoming curious about the nature of something. Appreciating the nature without trying to make it be something else. But that mutual belonging. Finding those moments and creating those moments more and more. I'm hearing there's one more thing, one more part of the message. I'm seeing a bucket with water being carried to and fro. So that makes me think of the age of Aquarius, and also what we were talking about with the shadows, connecting with our shadows to clean our waters, and the shadow work of colonization, of decolonization, and roots. So as I'm talking about the nature and our nature I want to say something about our relationships and recognizing our relationships and how colonization has shifted how we relate with our nature, and to deepen into that with curiosity. Because if lineages were forced to leave or chose to leave or migrated for different reasons, if those experienced weren't fully processed or healed, then we still carry it and it continues to shape how we relate. So this is an invitation to question everything, pretty much. To feel into unraveling. Unravel. If we have a really strict way we've identified ourselves, to unravel that a little bit more. And more and more, until we can recognize our nature, until we can trust our nature again. And to trust our nature, I think we need to understand it, and to understand it, I think we need to understand what we've been shaped by. And how we've been shaped, and to question that. I'm hearing bells ringing like this is it for today. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for generously sharing your presence, your inner worlds. Now we'll disconnect our energies. Until next time.